Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We're going to be right back with today's guest, but we're also going to give our sponsors a shout out. Now, you've heard me say before, these are all companies I used as an athletic director. They're all great companies. I really recommend that you check them out. So take 3 minutes, listen to our shout outs, then listen to our interview, and then go and visit these sponsors. I'm telling you, you're going to be very glad you did. Here we go. We want to say thanks to our good friends at Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com and you can schedule a live web demo to see their products in action. Probably one of the best purchases I ever made was our Sideline Interactive indoor score table. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. Check out all their great products today. We also want to say thanks to Huddle. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but when I became an athletic director, I made sure that our school was a Huddle school, and our coaches just loved the tools that Huddle provided. Our student athletes loved the videos, and our parents loved the streaming, but there's so much more. Go to huddle.com, join the 8 million users. Turn your school into a Huddle school. We also want to thank our friends at Snap Mobile. Have you ever spent weeks and weeks with a fundraiser and then been disappointed in the results? Well, those days are gone. Go to snapraise.com. We used it at our school. Tremendous success. I'm telling you, it works. Go to SnapRaise. Check out their other great platforms. But if you're looking for a fundraiser, you just found it. It's snapraise.com. We also want to thank Vital Signs Wall of Fame. If you're looking for a really cool way to display your school record boards or your school's Hall of Fame, go to Vital Signs Wall of Fame and take a look at their interactive touch screen video consoles. I'm telling you, you put one of their units in your gym lobby or your main school hallway, it's going to become a magnet for kids, for coaches. How about teachers, parents, sponsors, and alumni? You got to see it to believe it. Go to vitalsignswalloffame.com. You're going to be glad you did. We also want to say thanks to Gipper. Go to Gipper.com. Let their team help you create world-class marketing content for your school's social media channel. Whether it's a simple social media post or an entire newsletter to showcase all the great things your school is doing, the team at Gipper will have you up and running in no time. It's professional graphic design made easy. Go to Gipper.com for more information. That's Gipper.com. We also want to thank Home Campus. Home Campus is a platform you will use every single day, whether it's scheduling, rosters, results. For me, the athletic eligibility and clearance platform alone is, you got to see it to believe it. Go to homecampus.com. Don't forget to mention the podcast. Homecampus.com. Get started. We also want to thank Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. I didn't get my master's from Ohio, but my assistant AD, along with thousands of others, got his master's through the Ohio program, and it was great. It's very affordable, just 20 months, totally online. And while he completed his master's degree, he also completed 11 NIAAA leadership training courses at no extra charge. Go to Ohio University and check out their online masters in athletic administration. We also want to thank our friends at Hometown. Hometown's changing the game for schools and organizations with their suite of solutions for things like, oh yeah, digital ticketing, but there's a lot more. How about fee-free fundraising, athletic website construction, and a whole lot more. Whether you're a athletic director, a head coach, or an administrator, Hometown makes it easy for you and your school to save time, raise more money, and bring your entire community together. Go to hometown.com for more information. And we want to thank our good friends at Athletic Surveys. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to create a custom survey that lets you take the pulse of everybody in your program, student athletes, teachers, coaches, how about parents? And here's the cool thing. Most of that feedback is going to be overwhelmingly positive because most of your stakeholders support your program. And having that data is incredibly valuable, especially when you're visiting with a frustrated parent, maybe your principal, or even your school board. The website is athleticsurveys.com. Make sure you check it out today. Athleticsurveys.com. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We're going back to Massachusetts today, and our guest is going to be Lauren Plourde Jones. Lauren is the Assistant Athletic Director at Marshfield High School. Obviously, that's in Marshfield, Massachusetts. One of the, let's say, the bright new voices and faces of our world of athletic administration. Lauren Plourde Jones, welcome to the Educational AD Podcast.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
Well, you and I were talking. It's a busy time for athletic directors. You know, we are well into spring sports, regardless of what the weather might be in your state. But let's go and jump right in. We always like to let our listeners have a chance to get to know our guests. So give us your quick bio, where you were born, where you grew up. Maybe just take us up through your own college days, and then we'll take a break. But what's your origin story?
So I was originally born in New Hampshire, in Rochester, New Hampshire. And then when I was young, around 2 years old, my family moved to Plymouth, Massachusetts, which is about 20 minutes south of where I'm at now. Lived there, grew up playing soccer there growing up. Went to Plymouth North High School where I graduated. I also had a year down in Texas, one of my years in high school, because my family relocated. So a little messy there. But came back, graduated from Plymouth North High School, and then graduated there, went to the University of New Hampshire. So back to New Hampshire. And yeah, that's kind of where I grew up.
All right. Well, let's take a deeper dive into some of those things. You mentioned Plymouth High School. Now,
Yeah.
is that an old, like 100-year old high school, or because Plymouth kind of brings to mind an image, I think, for folks.
Exactly. Yeah, the Pilgrims. So yeah, it actually started as Plymouth Carver High School back in the day, but as the town grew, there's actually two high schools now. So it's Plymouth North High School and Plymouth South. And I went to Plymouth North, so more in the northern side of the town. Both high schools are very large. They're about 1,200 students each. So yeah, it's a big town.
Okay. So growing up, was it a small town vibe? Were you in the suburbs? Were you out in the country? What was that like for you growing up?
So I lived in the part that was technically considered West Plymouth, more suburbs, kind of more on the Carver side, which is another small town, just mostly just families. Yeah, more land, not the downtown area. Obviously, Plymouth is right on the water. So there is a waterfront area. So I wasn't, it's a big town, but it is small, But when you're in the north side where you go to North Plymouth, you don't really do a deep dive into the south. That has its own beaches, its own town centers, if you will. But so yeah, I was in West Plymouth, they would call it, where it was more, neighborhoods, yards, all the kids playing in the streets kind of deal, but not so much downtown area.
Let's go down that street. Kids playing in the streets in the yard. I shared the story when I was a kid 100 years ago. We had the biggest backyard. We were on the corner, and so our backyard, it was always the neighborhood football games or tag or basketball in the driveway. What was your experience like? Let's say pre-junior high.
Yeah, I mean, I lived in a big neighborhood. I lived at the very end. There's a lot of turns, I think, I forget how many, but there's like four cul-de-sac and like ends. So I was at the very end, it's called Shushalaway. And you couldn't drive down the street without stopping for kids to clear it out of the way, move the street hockey nets, or get out of the way for the kickballs. So where I lived right on a cul-de-sac, and it was perfect because I was just, I played nonstop in the cul-de-sac itself, but all the neighborhood kids would have wiffle ball, kickball, flashlight tag at night. It was definitely a fun area and a fun time to grow up for sure.
How do you think that experience, the games, the, teammates and competition, what sort of impact do you think that had on you as you got into more, let's say, organized sports, either through community sports or into junior high and high school?
Honestly, I mean, yeah, we always had like, street games, but also backyard soccer games. And, my my mom was more of a dancer in the theater stuff. My dad was a hockey guy, and I'm the youngest of three. And my dad got his hockey player with my brother. My mom got her dancer with my sister, and then I was kind of that person who got thrown into everything to see what would stick. And honestly, I mean, my dad played soccer a little bit, but he wasn't big into it. And the reason I got into it was because the family across the street had three girls, and we would always just play backyard soccer. And there was actually a town field through the woods. We could walk through a path, and there was a town field out back there. And so I started playing more like backyard soccer. And I'm like, hey, mom and dad, like I want to play soccer. Like I really want to try this. And they're like, why, why don't you try this instead, do this instead? And it wasn't until, my neighbor actually had his own team in the indoor season was like, I want Lauren to play with me. And so finally my parents were like, yeah, okay, fine, try it and see if you like it. Because everything else I was kicking and screaming, I don't like this. I don't want to do this. I didn't like dance, didn't like gymnastics, all of those things. And I want to play soccer. Like I want to get dirty and competitive, and I want to play soccer. And so finally, because of my neighborhood and the connections there is why I started playing soccer in the first place. So it definitely had, I guess, a big impression on me. And I realized that's, the sport I wanted to focus on. I ended up playing year round. And yeah, a lot of kids in my neighborhood or nearby were on my soccer teams in town, indoor and whatnot.
Let's go and fast forward then, so that, as a kid, your friends across the street, the backyard, the woods, high school and college, what are some memories that you have of those days that you can share?
Yeah, so high school, Plymouth North had a pretty competitive team. Played at least, I played my freshman and sophomore year there. And then my junior year is when I ended up moving to Texas. So I wasn't there for the junior season, but returned my senior year, was on the varsity team. Yeah, we had a lot of talent, that team, a lot of young girls that were very good. And then, I went to University of New Hampshire as a D1 school. I was not D1 material by any means, but, I continued playing intramural, the clubs there. And as an athletic training major at the University of New Hampshire, you're assigned teams. So technically, I mean, it's a little different now, but at the time you weren't able to be an athlete and an athletic training major because you were usually on the team. So yeah, my soccer playing career at a serious level kind of ended after I graduated high school, but I continue to play even, once in a while. I try to strap up the cleats and give it a go.
Now, athletic training, was that something that, going into college, you were thinking, hey, this is what I want to do, or did that just kind of happen organically?
At my high school at Plymouth North at the time, we didn't have an athletic trainer, so I didn't really know what it was. I knew growing up, I liked, I didn't love school, but I liked science. I liked the body. I liked anatomy. And so I kind of knew I was wanting to go in the medical field, and I knew I really liked sports. And so I was just kind of doing a deep dive and found out that athletic training was a thing. And actually, in my senior year, I got a pretty substantial injury. I partially tore my quad muscle, and I didn't have anyone to like go to or kind of advocate for me on the sidelines to be like, yeah, this is real, and she's hurting, whatever, and give me the limitations where I probably played when I shouldn't have played. So I definitely took a deep dive in that and thought it was interesting, and so I went to the accepted students day to kind of learn more about what athletic training was, and I was kind of like, yeah, I mean, you could be a medical professional, you can work with sports, and you only need 4 years of school. I'm down. So that's kind of where it came from.
Oh, no, and again, I just love to hear the stories about, how we end up and where we're at on our journey. I think I knew in the back of my mind I wasn't going to be a National Football League player, but
Yeah,
I can stay involved in sports. I can
right.
coach, I can teach. Yeah, oh, absolutely. Let's go and take our first break, but we are going to come back
Okay.
with more. Our guest today is Lauren Plourde Jones. She's the assistant athletic director at Marshfield High School. That's in Marshfield, Massachusetts. Like I said, we're coming back. Please stay with us. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to say thank you to our good friends at Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com and you can schedule a live web demo and see the products in action. Probably one of the best purchases I ever made as an athletic director was our Sideline Interactive indoor score table. Of course, we use it for home games, but we also use it for pep rallies, for signing ceremonies. The products are tremendously versatile and their customer service is just outstanding. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. Don't forget to mention the podcast, sidelineinteractive.com. We also want to say thank you to our friends at Huddle. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but when I became an athletic director, I made sure that our school was a Huddle school. And our coaches, all of our coaches, just loved the tools that Huddle provided. Our student athletes loved the videos, and our parents loved the streaming, but there's so much more. Go to huddle.com, join the 8 million users, and find out how to turn your school into a Huddle school. That's huddle.com.
Jake, we actually at Marshfield High School, we also are supporters of Huddle. We have their indoor cameras, their outdoor cameras on our field. So all of our teams have the opportunity to live stream and, record film that they can watch at a later date on all their events. And also families can watch it as well if they can't make the game in person.
Well, thanks so much for sharing that. When you started live streaming the games, what was some of the feedback that you got from parents or families? Did they appreciate that?
Yeah, we actually started, our local cable company is actually their offices in our school and they do a lot of coverage. And we actually started using them during COVID when spectators were limited or whatnot. And then because it became more of a thing, and we kind of partnered more with Huddle to get that fixed camera, so we didn't necessarily rely on the cable company's schedule of, okay, what team are you covering today? Are you covering this game? So to have those cameras like in the gym themselves that will tape everything that's going on in there. Yeah, the families love it because there's not as much pressure of I'm going to miss the game or whatnot, but also more so the players because it does live stats, it does everything. So giving them a chance to get recruited off of simply just taping their games to have to look back at a later date has made a world of a difference.
You're absolutely right. It's such a great tool from all those aspects. The coaching, the analytics for the kids, recruiting, even as kids who aren't being recruited, just a keepsake video that they can put together, and then of course the streaming. Thanks so much for sharing that. For our listeners, our guest today is Lauren Plourde Jones. She is the Assistant Athletic Director at Marshfield High School in Marshfield, Massachusetts. Lauren, we're taking our listeners on your journey. You're at University of New Hampshire, an aspiring athletic trainer. As you were nearing graduation, take us through, those moments. Were you looking to become a trainer? Had you already been, let's say, bitten by the athletic director bug? How did that all play out?
I haven't been bitten yet. I was definitely going for the athletic trainer career ahead. I was more interested in the rehabilitation side of things so I thought at that time in my career, again, like I said, you have to get placed with internships as a student athletic trainer. And I really kind of jumped on and enjoyed more of the rehabilitation side of things. So I was kind of like, do I want to go back to school to do more PT stuff or do I want to keep being an athletic trainer? And I told myself, athletic trainer it is. And I landed a job at a physical therapy clinic right after graduation. So I was always told by my dad, once you got to have a job before you do anything. So, as a senior at UNH, I was applying everywhere, trying to find my next home and landed a job actually in Marshfield at a physical therapy clinic called Mass-Based Spine and Sports. So that's where I began my career. I didn't see the athletic director career in sight for me. I always knew I liked being a leader and whatnot, but yeah, I was still kind of on that athletic training path, but more in a clinic setting.
So again, take our listeners through like a normal day, if there was such a thing, at the clinic. What were some of the things you were doing in your capacity as an athletic trainer?
So I was hired as this clinic had a what we called a medical gym, and I was hired to kind of start that up and take patients who were discharged that might still need some rehab, or simply athletes who wanted to go on, who got discharged, who needed to get more back on the field, so needed to amp up their rehab a little bit. So I was hired to take those patients, create personalized fitness programs for them and rehab programs for them, taking their limitations into consideration. And, so I'd have a client bring them through exercises or stretches that I thought was valuable for them. And so I would do that kind of a few times a week with my clients. And that was what I was meant to do there.
Mhm. Now, I know I would say it's frequent. Well, maybe it is frequent. It often happens that these clinics will also contract with school districts or individual schools to provide, game day services or pre-practice. Were you doing any of that during your time at the clinic?
That's a great segue. So I wasn't hired for that, but so that clinic was actually at the time contracted out to provide athletic training services to Marshfield High School. But I wasn't hired for that position. We had an athletic trainer who was already there providing services. But she ended up leaving after the fall season, my first year at the clinic. But because we were still we still had to fulfill our contract. I was the only other athletic trainer on staff. And so I was working full time at the med gym and then was just covering events starting in the winter season for the high school itself. And then the town actually approved a full time athletic training position, district hired. And I didn't initially apply for it, but the athletic director came up to me and was like, "We really want you to apply," because I've been working with them for the last 6 months. And I was like, "Yeah, okay, I guess I will apply." And then I ended up getting it. And that's how I kind of made the transition over. So I
Yeah.
didn't necessarily do those things intentionally, but we did fulfill the contract. And then we ended up separating from contracting out. And then Marshfield High School just had a district hired athletic trainer at that point.
Right. We're going to get into your current position, the assistant AD part, in our next segment. Let's go and stay here on the training.
Yep.
I mean, that doesn't surprise me at all. Athletic directors, when they come across, a quality trainer, they're going to do everything they can to, keep that person. So, good for your AD for recognizing you. Um, so you were working full time at the clinic, but then you were doing, I'm assuming, after school practice, supervision, and game stuff. That was an additional, I guess, stipend, correct? They weren't, just increasing your duties at the same salary.
Unfortunately, they did.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, because they consider it more split time. And I did, I ended up, we were right across the street from the high school, which was great at the time, so I necessarily didn't cover practices, but they knew I was right across the street. So if anything happened, coaches had my number, and the kids sometimes would walk over and I would tape their ankles at the PT clinic, and then they would walk back and do practice. So I was primarily just doing games. And I would have made a lot of extra money, but I was a sucker and I'm just a workhorse. And I'm just kind of like, yeah, I'll do what needs to be done. But I'm just thinking it paid off in the long run now. But it was a crazy time for sure.
Okay. So, fast forwarding now, the school has approved an athletic trainer position. Um, at my school, so I was very fortunate, private school, we had trainers. They were full-time trainers. They didn't teach, they didn't coach. At my last school, our trainer came in, her hours were she was on campus at noon, from noon to 3. Theoretically, she was doing, treatments and rehab with students that had study halls or things like that. We weren't taking them out of classes. And then, the pre-practice, the taping, practice supervision, whatever was going on during that season. and then she was at every home game. And she traveled with the football team, didn't travel with any other teams unless it was playoffs or things like that. What was your experience, or what was your job description when you were that full-time trainer?
Yeah, so it sounds pretty similar. So once it became a full-time district-wide position, my hours were technically like 2 o'clock to whenever practices or games ended. So we're looking more like 8 p.m. So it was like 2 to 8 p.m. So yeah, I would go in, tape everyone up, do treatments and whatnot before they had their practices, their games, and then I would cover all home games, home events, varsity, sub-varsity. And then it wasn't until probably a few years into my career that the MIAA, which is Massachusetts Interscholastic Association, they demanded that both sidelines on football had athletic trainers. So it wasn't until then that they demanded that team trainers kind of traveled with their own team or provided someone else for their sideline. So it was I didn't have to travel until a few years into it. And the same thing, I actually didn't have to cover hockey games because the rings held they hired EMTs to do it until a few years into my career. Then it was mandatory that an athletic trainer for the home team had an athletic trainer on site.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. I've never been an AD at a school that had hockey, but
Oh, okay, yeah.
I can imagine the the potential for whether it's injury or even rehab is certainly going to be there in a game like hockey that's physical and fast, and they have weapons on their feet and in their hands. So,
Yep,
okay. Um,
exactly.
let's go ahead and talk about your transition. Actually, we're going to save that for our next segment. For our listeners, once again, our guest today is Lauren Plourde Jones. She is currently the assistant athletic director at Marshfield High School in Marshfield, Massachusetts. You've already heard about her athletic training background. Next, we're going to focus on her current position as assistant AD. We're coming back with more, so stay with us. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We also want to thank our good friends at Snap Mobile. Have you ever spent weeks and weeks with a fundraiser and then been disappointed in the results? Well, those days are gone. Go to snapraise.com. We used it at our school. Tremendous success. Our coaches loved it. Our parents loved it. I'm telling you, it works. Go to snapraise.com. You can check out all of their other great platforms. But if you're looking for a fundraiser, you just found it, and it's Snap Raise. Go to snapraise.com for more information. We also want to thank our friends at Vital Signs Wall of Fame. If you're looking for a really cool way to display your school record boards for all the teams, for all their different events, go to Vital Signs Wall of Fame and check out their interactive touch screen. That's right, touch screen video consoles. You put one of their units in your gym lobby or your main school hallway, it's going to be a magnet for kids, for coaches, even teachers. How about parents, sponsors, and alum? You got to see it to believe it. Go to vitalsignswalloffame.com. Don't forget to mention the podcast, vitalsignswalloffame.com. And we want to thank our friends at Gipper. Go to Gipper.com and let their team help you create world-class marketing content for your school's social media channel. Maybe it's a simple social media post to celebrate a victory. How about an entire newsletter to showcase all the great things that your department is doing in the community, or a whole lot more? It's so easy to do, even I can do it. Go to Gipper.com. Start creating world-class content for your school's social media channel. That's Gipper.com.
Many of our teams have been using Snap as well to raise some monies for their individual boosters programs too. It's very easy to run, and it with their busy schedules, it's also really easy for them to do during the season. It doesn't take a ton of time, so they've had a lot of success using Snap.
Oh, well, that's so cool to hear. And thanks again for sharing. We used it, as you heard, we used it at our school. A number of our teams used it. And just, I was amazed at how easy it was. Seriously, I don't have to do anything,
Mhm.
all this money comes in. Wow. Thanks again for sharing that.
You're welcome.
For our listeners, our guest today is Lauren Plourde Jones. She is the Assistant Athletic Director at Marshfield High School, Marshfield, Massachusetts. Lauren, you have taken us on your journey as a athletic trainer. How did you end up, as I like to say, on the other side of the desk as an assistant AD?
Yeah, so at the time when I was the athletic trainer, I was always, since my hours were mostly in the afternoon, I was always looking for odds and ends or doing other little jobs just to kind of make ends meet. And the administrative assistant in the athletics department at the time decided she was moving to an elementary school in the district. And so my athletic director was kind of like, hey, I know you always are looking for something to do. Do you want to help me in the office? And I was like, yeah, sure, why not? A lot of the tasks kind of overlapped anyways, and a lot of the coaches already kind of knew me, so it was an easy transition. This was year 3 into my career here at Marshfield, and so I started working as the administrative assistant. So my hours, I'd come in early, so my first 4 hours of the day were as the administrative assistant, and then I would transition into my AT role after school. So I was kind of doing those things all day now, and I ended up really liking it. And I love organizing things, and again, it's a lot of you're looking at a lot of the same things as the athletic training as the athletic trainer, and into the administrative side of things. So it was a really good combination, I felt. And so I ended up going back to school to get my master's in athletic administration through Endicott. And I finished that in 2019 and decided, yeah, maybe I can kind of take the next step in my career and become an athletic administrator instead.
We use this expression a lot in the athletic director world. I think maybe coaches use it too. Um, you don't know what you don't know. Now, I think trainers probably have a better understanding of what athletic directors do than sometimes coaches who become ADs. For you, coming in, as a new athletic director, what was something that you found out that you didn't know about the job?
Um, to be honest, the headaches. Um, it's I kind of knew the organization it takes. I kind of knew the management. You see what you see. Athletics is fun, right? This is everything someone loves to do. It's people's hobbies. It's their passion. And everything's not that fun all the time. And sometimes when people are really passionate about sports, it can get a little personal. And I think I just was more surprised at, being in the office as, how much kind of noise the athletic directors kind of have to deal with off, even not, on the sidelines, or not with the players, not with the coaches or anything like that, but a lot of noise from the community or a lot of noise from the parents or whatnot. I think that's what I was most surprised about. I got that a little bit from the athletic training standpoint, but not so much from the athletic director's side.
Yeah, I like that word. Actually, I don't like it, but it's true. Noise,
Yeah.
the noise. Um, Now you already knew the coaches. You had a relationship with them as a trainer, and it's somewhat, I think, of a peer relationship, but at the same time, and I mean this I don't mean this in a negative way, but as a trainer, you held tremendous power over those coaches, in a good way because,
Mhm.
health and safety of their student athletes. Did you notice any change in the dynamic or the vibe now that you weren't the trainer anymore, but you're the assistant AD? Am I explaining myself well?
Yeah, yeah. So going back a little bit for my position, so I did the dual positions for 6 years, and then the town actually added, an assistant athletic director full time role. So I was doing dual roles for so many years, and even though I was, taking on an athletic director role, they still were treating me purely as just the athletic trainer. And it wasn't kind of until I became, just the assistant athletic director like 3 years ago that there definitely was a transition. I've never really been a coach. And so I think that's kind of, and my athletic director tells me this is more of my hang up, like, but I do feel like because I was never really a coach and they viewed me as the athletic trainer, they're always going to respect me on the medical side of things or, liabilities, if you will. But as far as like a coaching standpoint and whatnot, I do think, it is more challenging for me because they have seen me, I mean, this is my 11th year there. They've seen me kind of grow into this role. And we do have a lot of long-term coaches that they're kind of like, oh, no, that's just Lauren. And so I do think it takes more of me to kind of like crack the whip and being like, no, I'm serious on this because they just kind of like, that's Lauren. Where, like you said, as an athletic trainer, if it was medical, it was like, yep, whatever she says goes. But now it's kind of like, oh yeah, whatever. And then, when the athletic director comes in and it's like, no, this is what we need, it definitely kind of helps kind of get the point across. So there definitely is a little bit of transition, but at the same time, I will say it has been easier because they do respect me. They do trust me because they have seen me grow into the role. And so, I know coming into another school that maybe they don't know you, it has its perks and it definitely has its woes. And, it's the same thing. It's like, the W know is better than the W don't. But at the same time, like if I came into a school that doesn't necessarily know me and has seen me grow, then maybe they would take me a little more seriously, I guess is the word I'm looking for.
Yeah, I certainly understand, what you're sharing and, human nature being what it is. At the same time, I think I'm going to agree with your athletic director, and I say this with a smile. This is your hang up. It's not theirs.
Yeah.
I don't think it is. They see you, like you said, they've seen you grow. But even before that, you were professional. You handled your business in a professional manner. And okay, well, now she's the assistant athletic director. Um, I'm interested in your take on this. This is my perception based on a career in athletics. I think the athletic trainer is in a somewhat unique position as the trainer. You're there, you're visible, they know you, kids know you, etc. At the same time, you're kind of a fly on the wall. And you will get to see, kids and coaches and the AD, behave and react and do things because they just don't think, oh, I got to guard myself or, I can't let my, you know, I'm struggling for an example, but, if that coach's frequent use of F-bombs or things like that,
Mhm.
it's not, well, gosh, Lawrence here, I can't say that. They're going to say that because that's who they are.
Right.
Does that make sense? The whole fly on the wall.
Yeah, 100%. I always say that, one of the qualities you need as a good athletic trainer is people got to talk to you. Like they're going to want to share their secrets and yeah, be them, be off on a unapologetically them in front of you because, as an athlete, you want to know who they are because then you can kind of get a grasp of like who they need to get back to. And coaches, yeah. I mean, for some reason, people are super vulnerable with athletic trainers. And yeah, you witness a lot and you probably know way too much, and yeah, I mean, so you're absolutely right, having them kind of like need to filter themselves all of a sudden, which, again, I like to think that I'm not a person that will hold things over their head. And I used to always tell my kids, you can tell me that, but just so you know, if I hear something, I gotta report it. And so you can tell me, but if I need to do something with that information, I will. And now it's kind of like the same thing. But yeah, athletic trainers are definitely, I always said they're in a special position because you're responsible for a lot of all your athletes, right? It's another role in athletic department where you have complete oversight of all your athletes, all your coaches, officials, everything that's going on just from a medical standpoint. And the athletic trainers, the athletic director is similar in that, where you're overseeing the whole department just from a different angle, including their angle. So, and I think a lot of times, and I think what makes me special is, a lot of times people don't really know what an athletic trainer does or what they go through. And in my position now, like I can support and understand my athletic trainer who works for us now, who replaced me, in a different way. And I didn't necessarily have that understanding or support. And so I kind of like take pride in the fact that, hey, I know you need a break. Oh, I know that was, that's rough. It's a long stretch right now. Take a minute. Or, that injury was tough. Like walk a lap, debrief, kind of like be with yourself for a minute. When a lot of people, an athletic director that might have just been a coach, like doesn't have that background, doesn't necessarily know.
Yeah, no, I love it when people say, Jake, you're absolutely right. So, but no, again, I was very fortunate in my career to have some great, just truly great athletic trainers, and the two of them. I don't even know why I'm saying this. Two of them were women, but they were just great. Okay, and
Yeah.
I would just say, hey, that's your department. Okay. If you need, backup or something, one time I had to remind our head football coach about who was in charge of return to
Right.
play.
Yep.
And I told him, it was just him and me. I said, if we have this conversation again, we're going to be having a different conversation. Okay.
Right.
But again, very, very fortunate. It takes so much off your plate as an athletic director when you have that quality athletic trainer. All right.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
we're going to do this at the end of the podcast, but let's do it right now. If one of our listeners wants to reach out and pick your brain a little bit more, whether it's about athletic training or being an administrator or just add you to their network, what's the
Yep.
best way that our listeners can connect with Lauren Plourde Jones?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always open. They can email me directly. I'm totally fine with that. They can, follow me on LinkedIn. They can follow my Twitter, whatever they want to do. I'm more than happy to communicate with anybody.
All right. Well, you and I connected on LinkedIn. I'm going to guess your contact information's in the NIAAA database. Let's go and give out that Twitter handle. Give them another way to get a hold of you. What's that?
Sure, it's at L Plourde, so Plourde, capital ATC. And I
All
should
right.
find.
We'll put that in the show notes and we'll give out all that information at the end of the
Perfect.
podcast. One more time, our guest today is Lauren Plourde Jones. She's the assistant athletic director and a longtime athletic trainer at Marshfield High School, Marshfield, Massachusetts. We're taking another break. I know that's shocking to our regular listeners, but we're going to be back with more. So please stay with us. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to take a moment and say thanks to our good friends at Home Campus for their support. Home Campus is one of those platforms you're going to use every single day, whether it's scheduling, rosters, results. For me, the athletic eligibility and clearance platform alone is incredible. You truly have to see it to believe it. To get started, all you have to do is go to homecampus.com. That's it. And if your state already has a software package for scheduling and rosters, you can still use Home Campus as your athletic eligibility and clearance platform. Make sure you tell them you heard about it on the podcast. They'll give you a nice discount. That's homecampus.com. We also want to thank our friends at Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. Now, I didn't get my master's at Ohio, but my assistant athletic director did, along with thousands of others, and it was a great experience. It's very affordable, just 20 months, totally online. And while you're completing your master's degree, you're also completing 11 NIAAA leadership training courses at the same time at no extra charge. Go to the Ohio University Online Masters in Athletic Administration for more information. We also want to thank our friends at Hometown. Hometown is changing the game for schools, for organizations, and individuals with their suite of solutions for things like, oh, yeah, digital ticketing, big surprise there. But Hometown's a lot more than ticketing. How about fee-free fundraising athletic website construction, and a whole lot more. Whether you're an athletic director, a head coach, or a school administrator, Hometown makes it easy for you and your school to raise more money, to save time, become more efficient, and bring your entire community together. To get started, just go to hometown.com. That's it, hometown.com. You're going to be very glad you did. Welcome back, everybody, to the Educational AD Podcast. Our guest is Lauren Plourde Jones. She is the assistant athletic director. Previously was a longtime athletic trainer for Marshfield High School, Marshfield, Massachusetts. Lauren, we talk about this particular, I guess, subject frequently, and I'm curious about how you made I don't know if transition's the right word, but you were the athletic trainer, and now there's talk in your district about creating a position, and this was years ago, for an assistant athletic director, and you were definitely interested in that. How did you, let's say, help not only sell the idea of the need for an assistant athletic director, but at the same time, sell yourself as, hey, I'm the candidate and here's why. Can you take us back through that part of your life? Because I think selling yourself is a tool, if you will, a toolbox tool that some people don't naturally have in their toolbox.
Yeah, of course. I don't think I naturally had it in my toolbox, but I definitely, pulled it out of myself just to, take the step that I wanted to take in my career. Marshfield High School was one of the first schools on the South Shore and still is one of the only schools on the South Shore that, hired an athletic trainer full time within the district. So an independent contract, but gave them, teachers benefits, teachers, everything. So I kind of used that. I was the one who was luckily able to have that position for the first time and hold it for so long that I kind of took that and just told them, hey, you weren't afraid to break the mold the first time and be the first one to pave the way of, what's needed in this department. And, I think we can do that again by, creating another full-time spot, take that admin assistant, do away with it and make it a full-time assistant athletic director. And, they're open to it, but, it's always, budget talk and whatever. And, I was lucky that I worked under a principal and, our athletic director who's really passionate about athletics and also were longtime staff in Marshfield. So a lot of people kind of respected them and their ideas as well. So we kind of all like banded together to create it. Everyone preaches life work balance now, and an athletic director doesn't get that. So how can we, make this job better and not create turnover as much? And that's giving them support in an assistant athletic director. Now you have two people doing certain roles and managing events, and they want you to take time for yourself, but at the same time, if you miss something and you weren't there for something, shame on you. So having two people to kind of do the event schedule and break it up a little bit and also take time for yourself to stay sane. We kind of harped on that. And then I sold myself because, as an athletic trainer, I can keep my certifications, my licensing, and the only other person in that department who also doesn't have support is the athletic trainer. When you want a day off, you have to find your own coverage. It's not like you post on your online, like, hey, I'm going to be out, and they give you a sub. Like, you got to dig deep to find out, like, hey, I know you have all your own events, but can you cover my game? Like, I have the flu. And so you felt like you couldn't take a day off. And that's something that an athletic trainer and an athletic director had in common. Like, when can we step down without feeling really, bad about it? And so I kind of sold myself being like, I can help, the athletic director. Now I have my master's and I'm also, admin certified within the Massachusetts Teachers Association. And I'm also a certified athletic trainer. Well, that's kind of use these both my certifications and I can help both of them. While you're also giving me a next step in my career by giving me a sports leadership position. So that's kind of how it came to fruition. And again, our administration is super supportive, and they found a way to do it. And here I am 3 years later.
Boy, I love the process that you went through and the bullet points, if you will, about the how and the why, more in the why that this was needed. Now, you've been in the role now for 3 years. What's the state of athletic training at Marshfield High School? Were you involved in hiring your replacement?
Yeah, of course. I'd have it no other way. Yeah, we did have one for a short bit, but she ended up relocating. So we have another full-time athletic trainer who's been with us. This is her second year. And she's been great. And yeah, I got to kind of bring them in. And, it's really important for me to let them know, like, I'm here to support you. I'm not here to tell you what to do. And just because I did this job for so long doesn't mean you need to continue it in the way that I did it or do it. Like, it can look completely different, but I'm here as more of a support. When you need a day off, when it's getting too much, like, go, I got you. And it might sound like my schedule still is a lot, and it is, but at the same time, like, I don't have to stay there every night until the end of practices, like our athletic trainer does. So I still have more flexibility in the day-to-day stuff, and which gives me the availability to give her a break when she might need it.
Yeah, got another question for you, and this could apply when you were the trainer or for your current trainer at my school. And again, we were a private school, an independent school. Our trainer, um, they were contracted, if you will, for 9 months. They got paid over 12 months, but they had their summers off. And our summer at our school was incredibly busy with summer camps that were PE oriented, that were sports oriented, and we allowed our trainer to work individually with whether it's the football coach, the basketball coach, soccer coach, to work their camps and make some additional money. Or, hey, I'm going to be gone the month of June, doing whatever I want to. How did that work out at Marshfield for you or for your current trainer?
Yeah, so again, it sounds pretty similar. It was a 190-day contract, so which of course they usually end up working over. But once the season ends in the spring, they have the summer to do whatever they want with, and they come back for preseason in August. So you definitely have at least like 2 months off that you can kind of do your own thing. Early in my career, I worked every camp I could, just because that's who I was. And then as I kind of got older and I was just like, I don't need this. I need time to kind of like recoup. So it still is like they kind of have extra time. And our athletic trainer now, she picks and chooses. I still find time to do per diem camps and whatnot, still get my toes wet in it so I don't get too rusty. So I still have opportunities to do some of the camps, and some of them are longtime coaches too, and they're like, Lauren, we want you. So I can still, participate in that. But Becca, our athletic trainer, she has the opportunity to kind of do per diem stuff if she wants to as well, or she can just take time for herself, which is a rare thing to get.
Oh no, absolutely. It's trainer, athletic director. It's a great job. Okay, I did 41 years, and I joked
Yeah.
I'd be in trouble if I had to work for a living. But you do need that time away. You do need that time to decompress, if you will. Lauren, this has just been so cool adding you to our network and get to know you a little bit, but we're not done yet. We always wrap up with the athletic director's toolbox. Now, you've certainly established that you know your way around the world of athletics, but we're going to take our final break here from Athletic Surveys, who sponsored this segment. When we come back, I'm going to challenge you to send out a brand new athletic director on their first job, but I'm only going to let you put 3 items in the toolbox. So let's take that break. And when we come back, we're going to see what Lauren Plourde Jones puts in her new athletic director toolbox. We want to thank our good friends at Athletic Surveys for sponsoring the AD Toolbox segment. Athletic directors already get feedback, but a lot of times it's from a very small group that only wants to complain. Athletic Surveys is going to connect you to that group so you can hear their concerns and hopefully address them. But they're also going to connect you to the 98% of your stakeholders that support your program. And having that data is incredibly valuable, especially when you're visiting with a frustrated parent or maybe your principal, sometimes even your school board. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to create a custom survey that lets you take the pulse of everybody in your program. That's athleticsurveys.com. Well, it's that time of the podcast. We've been visiting today with Lauren Plourde Jones. Has an incredible background as a trainer, as an athletic director. But right now, I'm going to challenge her to send out a brand new athletic director on their very first job. But I'm only going to let her put 3 items in the toolbox. So, Lauren, what 3 things are going to go into your new athletic director toolbox?
Okay, so I often refer back to these things. I'm gonna treat it as one tool, and I'm gonna call it my 3 C's. And it's communicate, be consistent, and be confident. Communication's key as an athletic director, in my opinion. You can't over communicate, but you can certainly under communicate. There's just a lot of moving parts. Be consistent. Don't treat people different, like stick to your policies, stick to your protocols, treat everyone the same, whether that's discipline or whatnot. Just be consistent. And then be confident. And, I struggle with this every day still. And it's, just be confident in what you're doing, be confident that you deserve to be in the position that you're in to make those decisions. And then everyone will trust that, that they'll be confident in your decisions as well. So that's the first tool. My second tool I would give them is, know when to turn it off. Athletic directing is something that, you're going to get contacted by people all hours of the day and night. And you got to know when to turn it off and, try to take some time for yourself. I know it's easier said than done, but don't bring work home with you unless, obviously there's those emergency situations, but know when to respond, know when to stop responding, give yourself some grace. That's number 2. And then number 3, this one came from my dad and I live by it probably every day, is control what you can control. There's a lot of things in this job that we can't control, but you can control kind of how you react to it, how you deal with it. And, you just got to stick to that and don't worry about other people's behaviors or reactions as much because we don't have control over that. We don't have the control over the outcomes of the games all the time, but we have control over how we behave, how we react, and that's how you kind of get good sportsmanship and whatnot. So control what you can control and don't stress too much about the other stuff.
Well, I love them all. The control, that you had a 4th C there, but those 3 C's were great. And you talked a couple of times during the interview about that work-life, balance, if you will. And people like to say, there's no balance. If there's balance, you're going to be fired. But you do have to
Exactly.
step away from the job. Great stuff. Lauren, thanks again for sharing with our listeners. If one of them wanted to reach out and pick your brain a little bit more, and listeners, I think you got a great resource here. What's the best way they can get a hold of Lauren Plourde Jones?
Yeah, so you can email me on my school email. It's ljones@mpsd.org. That's Marshfield Public School District. Or, reach out to me on LinkedIn, Lauren Plourde Jones, or, Twitter. My tag is @lplourde_ATC. Plourde is Plourde. And feel free to find me, reach me. Any questions, I'm totally welcome to answer anything.
Yeah, I just reached out and started following you on Twitter during our break. So,
Perfect.
As I mentioned, thanks again for sharing. All the best moving forward with spring. And we're going to have to get you back on the podcast. I think you're a great guest for our listeners.
Thank you so much.
Speaking of our listeners, we want to say thanks to you and remind you that we upload the Zoom recordings of every interview to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. We do this just about every day. We try to share stories and best practices from the world of athletics. So hopefully you'll join us on the next episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We'll see you next time.